community services and fire prevention for the InMaricopa Fire and Medical Department. We also have Battalion Chief Ken Pantoja. He was the incident commander for this one. Captain Danny Ashton, he was first in on this one. We have our Deputy Fire Marshal Eddie Rodriguez, who did the investigation on it, and PIO Brad Patassi, who was also here on the fire, so he's doing double duty. Just a quick rundown on like our operations, how we do things, like an overview. This fire came in on New Year's Eve. Fire came into our dispatch at 9:30. Hold on. 9:35:33. So it took them 25 seconds to send that, so it comes into the police. Police send it over to Phoenix Dispatch. Once they received it, it took 25 seconds for them to dispatch it. From the time of dispatch to the time our first rig was en route, it took 28 seconds. So from the time the first rig was en route to the time the first rig got here was 4 minutes and 39 seconds, which is under our goal per standards NFPA, which is what we run by. It says they recommend under 5 minutes and 20 seconds, so we were able to get first rig here under that. And then all Maricopa units were on the scene in 10 minutes and 39 seconds. So, which is a little bit over, but we got some 572s coming from Tortosa, so it's a pretty good time. All in all, it took them 39 minutes from the time the first rig was here till they had fire control, which is awesome. If you've seen the amount of damage and stuff that went on here. Being part of the Phoenix Consortium, there's 22 communities now. So we have access to like 200 fire engines and 50 ladder trucks and stuff like that. So when something like this happens, the automatic aid kicks in, so we got help from Sun Lakes, Goodyear, and Chandler on this one. Our guys pretty much took care of it. These guys can talk about the actual operations part of it. The other part is house had smoke detectors. There were occupants at the time. The homeowner stated that he heard a sound, walked over to his daughter's bedroom, which is behind here, smelled smoke, didn't see anything, opened the garage door, said he saw the fire right inside the door. He closed the door, went and got his wife and kids, and they came out. When he opened the door was when the smoke detector was activated. So the house is tight enough that none of the smoke got in until he opened the door. Then the detector is activated. So they got out safely. Fire's still under investigation. We were here Monday, and still no determination on cause. So other than that, I'll turn it over to Brad, and he can do his thing there.
So, hey everybody, my name is Brad Patassi. I'm Public Information Officer for the City of Maricopa Fire and Medical Department. We do want to keep this meeting going. There's two other special guests that we would like to share a few words on their experiences on this fire before I talk about the fire prevention, fire education component. We're going to leave you today with some safety tips on how we can prevent garage fires from happening in your house. But first, I'd like to introduce Battalion Chief Ken Pantoja. He's a C-shift battalion. He was an incident commander on the shift who ran that fire after more than one engine showed up. So without further ado, Battalion Chief Ken Pantoja will say a couple words on his experience with the fire.
Good evening, Cummin. Again, my name is Ken Pantoja. I'm a battalion chief for C-shift. Got on scene, we had a working garage fire. It was working pretty good. We've had offensive strategy. We have offense, defensive offense. We're going to fight the fire hard inside and try to stop the fire from spreading. So we do the offense strategy. First engine coming in, we had to pull a line to the garage. We had a garage fire, so we hit a line to as quick as we can. Second engine coming in, we'll go inside and do search and rescue in case anybody else left behind. We call it a primary all clear. We want to make sure that even though everybody's out, you never know when somebody might be left behind. We do have children might be left behind, so we try to get a primary all clear on it. So like Assistant Chief said, Storm said that we're on the Phoenix system. We train with the valley. We do a lot with the valley. It's like that. It's very good that we're on the feeding system. I can't explain it enough to tell you guys how much it is to have that comfort, to have knowing more guys are coming in, especially in the summertime, when our guys are really falling behind. It gets too hot and they need rest. That's when it's really dividend. Very good stop. Captain Ashton with his engine company did a very good job of getting the garage knocked down pretty good. But I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to look inside or if they're going to let you look inside, but the fire ran down the attic and ran all the way to the back of the home. Even though we had a garage fire, these homes go up pretty quick, but again, we got a good stop. And I'll leave it to that is good training. Our firefighter, it's my third department I work for, and I've done a lot of training up in the valley. I teach for a lot of community colleges. I tell you right now, we got the best of the best here. We got the best equipment, got the best firefighters, got the best chief staff, got best paramedics, you name it, we got the best. Or the community here has the best. So it's a very good feeling to work for this department, and Chief Leffler strives for nothing but the best, and I'm right behind him. And I think everybody else is right behind him also too. Our fire marshal does very good at doing his job. PIO does very good at doing his job. I can keep going on, but it's a good feeling to work for this department. Like incident command, I said I took incident command of this thing. We had, I think, 5 or 6 engines here working this fire. It's nice to have that many engines and knowing guys what they're supposed to do. They're very well trained. You give them an assignment or a sector, and they do it. They just do what they got to do, the task. So all I do is I put people in places, and then they do their task. You know, I'll tell you to go interior, they go interior, and then they do their task. They do their job. I don't do anything else, so they know what they need to be done. Any other questions for me at all? I mean, other than that, that's what I got. All I can say is I'm very proud to work for this community, and I'm very proud to work for this agency, this department I'm in. So, and I'll let the next one be Captain Ashton here will tell you. He's the first engine company coming in. He could tell you more about how they fought the fire and stuff like that. Thank you for coming again.
You guys have an awesome time. Bless you.
I don't know how to follow that. No. So, like my chief was saying, he was first on scene, so he got placed in a strategic location to where he could kind of see everything and make the assignments to what he was thinking. And the good thing about us training together, and him training us, we're kind of on the same page, because as soon as he gave me an assignment, I kind of knew what he was looking for. So as soon as we come in, I see the garage, it's fully involved. So the first thought on my mind is get a water supply. So we tagged that hydrant that's behind you guys, pulled up here, and when you have something that's blowing that much and you have a fire of that magnitude, there's something called critical application rate. So you have to get enough water to eat up the BTUs. If you don't get enough water on it, that fire is going to grow. So I was thinking big water, so we have what they call a blitz fire. It's you can almost leave it by itself. It's got a safety on it to where if it kind of goes one way or the other, it'll shut off. But it does 500 GPMs a minute. So we got that deployed really, really quick, and that was kind of what spurred getting the knockdown. So you guys have any questions? That was pretty much our extent. Pulled another hand line, so we had the blitz fire and a hand line going on the garage itself.
You know, just following up on what Captain Ashton and Battalion Chief Pantoja said, we hold this after the fire event for a couple things. One, it's a great public education opportunity, you know, fire prevention, but also to let the community understand how we operate and, you know, why we need big fire trucks, why we need the equipment, why we need the personnel. Like Chief Pantoja said, he's got 6 engines working. That's 4 guys per engine. That's 24 guys to work on a fire like that. And there's nobody standing around with their hands in their pockets waiting for something to do. Like Chief Pantoja said, he gives an assignment to the captains. Their guys know exactly what they do. One, you know, on first one in, one would hit the hydrant, one would grab the hose. The captain's doing that. The engineer's running around doing his thing. And that happens on all 6 rigs. So sometimes when, you know, in people watch the city council meetings and stuff, they hear fire department, police department asking for more personnel. It's for stuff like this. And as the city grows, we're going to need more fire stations, more people. You know, these are going to happen more frequently. So just wanted to throw that in because it's a chance for everybody to understand, you know, why we need so many people and what they all do on this. And this is just a fire call. EMS call, same thing. Everybody's got a job to do, and like 4 guys sometimes doesn't still seem like enough. So, we want to introduce our Deputy Fire Marshal, Eddie Rodriguez. He did the investigation on this, and we want to say a couple words.
Thank you, Chief. Hello. I'm still working. It's still under investigation. Just to kind of give you a brief synopsis of that, the reason we do these investigations is basically not to try to put blame on anybody. What we're doing, the reason for our investigation is to find out what started this fire, what caused this fire. We work with the insurance companies here. For a good example, if it was a coffee pot that's malfunctioned, the insurance company can go back to that manufacturer and they can fix that coffee pot so it doesn't occur again. At the same time, the insurance company, they're going to pay for this to get this house back into place again. But somehow they're going to want to get their money back. So if it is a bad coffee pot, they're going to go after that manufacturer to collect their money from them. So it's not necessarily to put blame on anybody. Where we want to find out what started this fire, what caused this fire. And like I say, the majority of the time, most of these are accidental. There's a few cases where somebody, you know, intentionally could have started that, but the majority of the time, they're all accidental. It's either electrical or we're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all have children. We all make mistakes. We're all forgetful. That's why we pay the insurance on that. So, as of right now, we're still working with the insurance company, and it's still under investigation. We have not determined the cause on it, but we're still working on that. Okay? Any questions? Thank you.
Are there additional concerns with having the solar panels on a house? Have you guys received any additional special training? Is there anything?
Our crews have been aware of the special training with the solar panels. They do know that they, just like anything else, the first thing to do, they secure utilities, shutting the power off before they do anything with it. So securing the pulley, the gas, the power. These solar panels, when they install these, they go through the process of the inspection, the plan review. These panels will install where if these guys had to get up on the roof, they could. We allow a walking room where these panels are installed so for firefighter safety, they can get around and walk around those panels if they have to get up on top of the roof. So,
and once further that, we do have training. We had solar panels training with up in Chandler, Phoenix, and base all there. We had training on that, so we know. The good thing about Phoenix Fire to be on their dispatch center, we get updates on our computer. I actually got an update saying solar panels on the house. I'm not sure the 911 people call us. I'm not sure how they knew, but coming in, I already knew. All the guys knew on our computers, the FCTs. It says solar panels on top of the home. That's good to know because now how we fight the fire is going to determine, because of the solar panel, to the safety of my firefighters and secure utilities. One of the first things we do in Instant Command is I secure utilities. I make sure somebody has that sector and secures utilities. And then they'll come back and say, whoever it is, ladder 571 to command, go ahead. We have utilities secured. So now we know that's secure. But somehow we did know I already knew coming to this fire that I had solar panels on this house. We all did. All the engines have their own thing. As I said, you can't put a price on dispatching from Phoenix Fire. They're the best of the best on them. And they're well trained. Well trained.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, again, my name is Brad Patassi, the Public Information Officer, and I just want to conclude this meeting by just giving a couple tips to make your garage a little bit more fire safe and aware. Around the country, there's approximately 7,000 garage fires a year, and as Deputy Fire Marshal Rodriguez said, the number one cause for garage fires is electrical. So garages in a home are a lot more than a place where you can put your cars and your bikes. We know and recognize that garages can be workspaces, that they can hold multiple different storage items, including gasoline and oils and cleaning solvents and everything else under the sun that you could use in a workspace in your house. And we want to make sure that there's a couple tips, a couple rules that you abide by to reduce your risk of having a fire in your house. The first is, make sure if this is a workspace, make sure you're providing and you're practicing good work habits. You know, to plug in multiple extension cords because you need 15 different electronic tools plugged into one outlet, not the best idea. If you need to revamp the electrical process in your garage to get more outlets, make sure you have a qualified electrician come out to your house. It's a little bit more expensive, but it will mitigate the hazards of an electrical fire in your house. So make sure you're providing the proper electrical facilities to the capacity that you need in your home. Second, only buy and only store what you're going to use. It's not necessarily have a 55-gallon drum of oil in your garage when you only need a couple pints a year. So make sure that everything that you're storing in your garage, you're doing it very effectively, and you're only keeping and storing what you really truly need in the house. And the third one is, if by any chance you have the option to store your paints, your solvents, your gasoline, any of those flammable products outside in a shed in the backyard, we highly recommend that you do that. It may be a quick walk when you need it to go from the outside shed into your garage to do whatever repair work or process you need to get done. But we want to make sure that it's safe at all times. And also recognize that garages are different than any other room in the house. There's a different fire safety component to it. The construction of the garage, the materials they use on the walls and ceiling is a lot different. And so there are preventative measures built into your house that will keep you safe in case there's an accident. So there's a higher fire rating within your garage than any other room in the house. With that being said, we preach smoke alarms and smoke detectors throughout your home. In a garage, we highly recommend, instead of smoke, a heat detector. So it's a detector, it's a device that will start alerting you if the heat rises in this house. In this fire, the homeowners and occupants heard noises which drew them into the garage. They felt the door, it was hot, they knew there was a problem, they called 911. If you have that early alert, that alarm from a heat detector, it can give you even more heads up that there's some sort of an issue that needs your attention to require. So we understand the garages, they are a higher risk room in the house, but if you mitigate those hazards, if you use your workspace and use good workspace practices, you control the electric ratings of your appliances and how much you're plugging into and where, you can mitigate any sort of fire happening in your garage. Another thing is you want to clear space around any of your water heaters. So 3 feet at a minimum of any combustible material, you always want to keep space around that. So without any further ado, any questions? Any questions from our audience here? We'll kick it to online. We know we're live with InMaricopa. If there's any questions out in the audience, we'd love to hear from you. We'll give it a couple minutes as you think of that question, and we can have Michelle relay that to us as needed. Ultimately, we understand that we all live busy lives, so we really appreciate everybody coming out to this event. We hate tragedy that occurs in our community, but the homeowners gave us permission. They understand there's always great learning opportunities and lessons from any incident that we have in Maricopa. So we want to thank you guys for taking your time out today to join us. Again, we're open for any questions. If you want more comfortable email questions, you can email me at mfdpio@maricopa-az.gov at any time. We'll get back to you. If there are no questions out in the audience, we're all going to stick around here for a couple minutes for everybody here, and wish everybody a good night.
Question.
Sure.
Can you explain, when a fire enters the attic, how quickly that can speed things up and how quick MFMD's response was in this case when it spread to the attic?
That's a great question. So the question was, when fire gets introduced in the attic, how quick it spreads and how did that impact our response to this fire? Whenever we have fire in the attic, it is a critical factor of fire. We don't like fighting fire over our head. Attics are designed in a space that it's very wide open, and there's not a lot of material in there that will prevent fire from starting in the front of the house and shooting all the way in the back. We experienced that in this house. This started in the garage, it went up to the attic, and this was actually a full-blown attic fire by the time our crews got in there to mitigate it. Extremely dangerous fires, very hard to mitigate, and speed was the reason why this house is still standing. So as Assistant Chief Storm said earlier, we were on scene within our 5-minute response time, and a lot of that requirement is to make sure that if there is fire in the attic or fire spreading rapidly, we can get water on that to mitigate that. So the way that Captain Ashton deployed his resources, we had firefighters spraying water into the garage initially, very, very quickly. Fire went from the garage into the attic space. Those water and those hand lines were able to shoot up to the attic to slow it down. But we had fire burning all the way in the rear of the house. So as crews go in, we take care of the fire in the garage. We also, our number one concern is life safety. So we want firefighters to go into the house, search for anybody that could be in the house that we take out. But while we're there, we're actually pulling ceiling to make sure fire is not overhead. Fire crews are pulling ceiling, fire was overhead, so we started using our hand lines to attack that fire in the attic. But attic fires are extremely dangerous. We're really behind the 8 ball when that gets in there. So again, it goes to the training and the professionalism of the department through the command of Chief Bentoa, Captain Ashton, to allocate resources appropriately to be able to mitigate that. So there's a lot of complexities with attic fires. This was an attic fire, and speed was the reason why we were able to get ahead of it.
Most of our communities here in Maricopa were built at a rapid pace. When you see, I mean, I don't know if you live in town or not, but I know you're supposed to have so much, 12 to 14 inches of that cellulose. I measured mine, and even mine is light on that. So is that something that could be added to the home to add to that fire prevention? And is there a better product besides that blown-in insulation that our homeowners could use in order to assist with, if you came on a fire, that would help, put out the fire quicker?
Sure. So, and it's a great question for those out. If you weren't able to catch that question, in essence, in summary, it's how does the insulation in the attic impact our fire efforts, and is there a product that would help in the future? And what we're seeing a lot is there's advances in the way that these homes are being insulated. Fire, whether it's burning in a campfire in the forest or unfortunately in your house, requires a lot of oxygen to grow and breathe. It's a fuel. It's what creates the environment. The better you insulate the house, the less oxygen that fire is going to get when it burns up the material in that house that it's burning, and it creates an environment that it becomes oxygen deprived. So what we see when we have a lot of insulation in the home, and there's some homes in some of these communities that are now the high efficiency green homes, where they're actually using an expansive foam in between the studs, which is incredible for reduction and increasing efficiency of the house, reduction of energy costs, the whole 9 yards. Where it affects us as firefighters is that the less a home can breathe, the less oxygen that can get into that home due to the better insulation, it can create a different environment that we go into. When we open the door and give that fire a big gust of air, if it hasn't been, if it's burning through all the areas, it creates what we call a flashover situation. So we have been training on the latest energy efficient products, the blown-in insulation, the expansive foam insulation, and how it dramatically affects the way that we deal with the fires. To get back to answering your question, the more insulation you have, the better. It doesn't really affect the fire behavior other than the less oxygen that can get into the home, then the more that home is susceptible to a flashover situation, which is pretty dangerous. But it also can help mitigate and keep that fire into one compartment, as opposed to being fed oxygen from a lack of insulation in some areas, cold spots, hot spots during the summertime, to do that. We always advocate for, we want to keep fires small. And if having a well insulated home, whether it be the blown in or the rolled out pink insulation, that's a personal preference on the homeowner and the efficiency rating, what they want to get to. But where we're seeing the dramatic change in fire behavior is when we start getting to that green home where there's zero oxygen introduced to the home, and they actually have to turn over that air through air handlers. That's our most drastic change that we're seeing in modern fire behavior, because those fires are being robbed of oxygen a lot quicker than a home that isn't quite as adequate when it comes to that. So, and there are great professionals out there that can guide you through that process and make it a more efficient home. But from us on that fire standpoint, that between the blown in or that pink rolled out foam, it's minor for the way that we attack it.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
You did.
Go south? Okay. Perfect. Any other questions? Like I said, we're going to be available here for a couple minutes after.
What is this?
Again,
So this is over there. What's going on?
This is what we're doing a review of the garage fire
Oh.
that we heard on New Year's Eve. So we're wrapping up the meeting, but we're gonna hang around, and any questions you have, we're all here to provide that for you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, well, great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And any questions, just email us and let us know. Thank you.
You live around here? No, I'm just here for me.